or to say prosecutor. Thuli Madonsela is giving a public lecture.
Tonight, that's titled Social Justice Gap Is the Constitution Responsible? And a lot of debate about the South African Constitution of late, especially around land, and then in memory of Nelson Mandela, saying he was part of that amazing document, that thing that some would say keeps us unique, keeps us together as a country. She's weighing in. Let's listen.
Before we decide whether we're doing well on social justice or not, and if we're not doing well, is the Constitution to blame? Maybe let's come to some common ground on what it is. For me, social justice is about just and fair distribution of opportunities, resources, and burdens in society, as well as between societies. There's social justice between people who coexist and social justice between groups that coexist. What is the legal basis of social justice? In South Africa, the legal basis of social justice is our constitution. I've often wondered, why have we not been talking about social justice a lot? If you read the preamble to our Constitution, you will note that among the things that we dream of becoming is a democratic society that is based on social justice, where everyone's life is improved and everyone's potential is freed. So that's social justice. Its basis is in the Constitution. But I thought we need to look at the Constitution broadly and say, insofar as it sought to build this new just society, where there's fairness and justice between people and between communities, what did it put in place to create that society? Because we clearly were not a socially just society. Right. The Constitution puts an architectural design to drive transformation and to maintain that transformation. So that design includes the vision of society. So it was a new vision of society where there's unity. It's a united nation. So the Constitution in the preamble talks about building a united nation. It talks about a constitution that embraces, a society that embraces diversity, a society where there is democracy, a democratic society. And the key to that society, though, are words such as everyone's potential is freed, everyone's life is improved, and that the society is at peace with itself and it's peace with the world. And we do know that as long as there's injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anywhere. The constitutional architecture includes values. One of the key values that are important for social justice is the value of equality. In the Constitution, it's presented as an aspirational value, because if you look at Section 1, which is the values section, it talks about the achievement of equality. Sometimes I really don't understand when people talk about a compromise that was made to solidify the status quo. How do people arrive at that perverted logic? When the Constitution, nowhere else in the world does a Constitution talk about the achievement of equality. Even the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 talks about equality as if it exists, as if discrimination is an aberration. In South Africa, we understood that discrimination was not going to be an aberration for a long time, that we were moving from a premise where there has been the hierarchization of difference in terms of race, in terms of gender, disability, and many other human attributes. And we needed to go on a journey using the Constitution to eliminate the legacy of that injustice. So these values are equality, freedom, human dignity, openness, transparency, democracy, democratic, and the Constitutional Court has also said that Ubuntu is one of our values. This was said in the case of S versus Makwanyane, once one of the early decisions of the Constitutional Court, and it was a decision that ended the death penalty. So you can see how the Constitution is a document that is transformative in its nature, if we allow it to do so. So the Constitution paints a vision of the future. It paints the values that need to cement our walk to the future. It also states the basic entitlements of citizens. And included in those entitlements are fundamental human rights. And these human rights transcend what we regard as civil and political rights. They include social and economic rights, which you will find in from section 27 onwards. A lot of them are in section 27. They include basic rights such as the right to food. So that's a society that would have achieved right to access to food, water, housing, education, health, services, etc. These are entitlements for you just because you're a human being. And the architects of our democracy, though, thought it was not enough to paint a vision, values, and basic entitlements of citizens if you were going to retain the character of the state as it was during apartheid. So our Constitution provides a new framework for the character of the state. And among the provisions on the character of the state is Section 195, that talks, for example, about the fact that the public service should have the highest level of professional ethics. Highest level of professional ethics. I know you're laughing because there's so many people that are not aware that that's a requirement under Section 195. And key to that, obviously, is that you can't have the highest level of professional ethics once you're in the public service. It means when you recruit into the public service, you should recruit on the basis of that highest level of professional ethics. Section 96 imposes basic ethical requirements for members of the executive. These include preventing a conflict of interest, not using your power and resources of the state to advantage yourself or to advantage any other person. Right. Right. But, dear colleagues, there's one section in the Constitution that we don't cite enough, but I believe that from the point of view of social accountability in civil society, we should leverage that section in the Constitution. It's Section 237, because it says we should put the Constitution first and deliver on constitutional responsibilities diligently. So if people, for example, prioritize flimsy things because there's going to be a deal that has a lot of potential, I don't want to go there. We are here about social justice. What we can leverage there is this in line with the priorities that have been set in the Constitution. And those priorities are those those Bill of Rights priorities in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Well, some of those priorities are not in Chapter 2. For example, by the Constitution saying that the public protector must be accessible to all persons and communities, it gives a right to complain to every citizen or person in this country or elsewhere. Anybody who has been aggrieved by state action has a right to complain. So automatically, it means the state has a responsibility to provide resources so that the public protector can execute your right to complain. So that becomes a priority.
Well, former public protector Thuli Madonsela there, really explaining the responsibility of making sure that those who are in power use state resources for the upliftment of the vulnerable and not for self-enrichment.